Hello, and welcome to Salty Talk. This is for community engagement ministers by community engagement ministers, and we are so excited about this episode. I have my lovely co-hosts, Miss Erica and
Hello.
Mr. Jerome. Thank you guys. I just cannot express to you how much I enjoy spending time with you. Listener, we've got a really great episode for you this time. We're talking about volunteer management and care. And gosh, during our time just kind of debriefing this episode, we were talking about the difference. Like, what's the difference between volunteer management and care? What is naturally, organically, like one without the other that really doesn't exist? And like, what comes first? What comes second? And we kind of all landed on the same thing of, volunteer management and care, you can't really do one without the other. You can't manage without care, and you can't care without managing. So yeah, let's just kick it off. We really want to highlight some of the things maybe that we do well and some of the things that we don't do well. So I'm going to throw it to my girl, Erica. What do you think about volunteer management? Let's give us some examples of maybe what you've done well, what you haven't done so well in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah. Well, when I think of volunteer management, I feel like my mind can go in so many different directions because
Mm,
depending on your context and how you've had to kind of implement this idea of management, it could be like you think of an event. So I have to figure out how to get people to sign up, right? And get volunteers trained. And there's kind of
mhm,
that like in an instant, like for an event, volunteer management. But when I think of it in my scenario, I think of this long term kind of how do I shepherd a volunteer? How do I
mhm,
help guide them, train them? Actually get to know them and
mm,
I feel like it can vacillate, not vacillate, but go between like, okay, this is a caring. I'm helping manage this volunteer, but I'm really like trying to check in on how they're doing to help manage, like, is this still a good fit? Do they like what they're doing? Is this the right placement? Is this like the wrong seat on the bus situation?
mm,
Or man, they're thriving. Let's figure out how we can help keep them excited, passionate, energized. They're leading so well. Like, how can I affirm where they're at? And so sometimes on the behind the scenes, sorry if you're listening and you're a volunteer, there's like a checklist because we're like, how do we make sure we don't miss anything? So I want to say that permission to have checklists, project management software to help make sure that you can manage and care for your volunteers the best is not a sin if that doesn't come naturally. Because for me, I feel like I can be so focused on this one thing that I forget the people, the stories, the way that
mm.
they are leaning into initiatives that our church is involved with. So I just wanted to say that, like I said, that's kind of foundation of how I'm thinking about volunteer management, because the three of us probably think differently, in each of our contexts, right? Like Jerome, what
Mhm.
does it mean to you when you think of volunteer management? Just before we get into the
Yeah.
missteps.
Yeah, good question. I love what you said though about shepherding volunteers.
Mm,
I think that is language that we need to normalize,
Mm,
at least internally, right? So when I think volunteer management, it's kind of like what Becky was saying at the outset, is this idea of I'm managing, which is a technical corporate word, possibly, and I'm doing that management with these care gloves, like these
mhm,
care hands, and everything I do is about care, and technically it's managing. So
mhm,
I think about what does it look like to help them like achieve the best outcomes that they could possibly achieve. What does that look like? That looks like building relational equity. So
mhm,
it's
mhm,
managing how do I put you in the most advantageous position when you're volunteering, when you're serving, so that we celebrate these volunteer opportunities for years and years to come. I want to know, what do you like to do? What do you not like to
mhm.
do?
Yeah.
Maybe you have heat related, physical ailments or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Okay, that means we're not going to schedule you for anything in the summertime in Phoenix, Arizona, because that would not be loving or caring, and that would be mismanaging. So I kind of think of it as like a holistic approach.
yeah.
How do we manage their service output? How do we manage their work-life balance? How do we manage? And this is a thing that I think that would be worthy of us like getting like under the surface of. How do we manage them feeling valued, like truly authentically valued and not just used? I think that
Yes.
that's a super important thing that as we manage, we have to manage that part of people's mental and emotional health as well
Hmm.
as their spiritual growth too. So there's a lot of moving parts in there
Mhm.
that we definitely need Jesus to help us with and help
Yeah.
us navigate through all of that.
Mhm.
But when I think of like volunteer management, I think of this big scope of many moving parts and pieces, but then it's different from person to person. So we always have to be on our P's and Q's. And but it's a great thing that we get to do. So I
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do know that we got no shot without the help of the Lord and community
Oh,
and
Correct.
great friends.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I love that you said just it's a different person. People are just so different. And yeah, I mean, community minister, as you're listening,
Hmm.
just want to encourage you that yes, lists are good. The management overall, you're in charge of. Yes, is this thing going to go well? But part of that is, checking in with the volunteers and thinking
Hmm.
and just having conversations and just being relational, and like, hey, how was your experience? And
Hmm.
instead of just like, yes, did it happen? The metrics, we had this many people. You can kind of
Hmm.
get in that rhythm of like just checking off those work boxes of,
Hmm.
yes, this happened. Yes, it was a success. Yes, we had more people than last year. Yes, like all the boxes are checked. But like,
Hmm.
did you actually check in on anybody? Like, how was that?
Right.
How did that look in terms of like, did they have a good time? Did they know what they were supposed to do? Were they
Hmm.
confused? Did they
Hmm.
get lost on their way there? Were the
Hmm.
directives clear? Did what was we always talk about that echo piece. Like if you throw something out there, like what happened and what was the result of it, and how can it go even further than your time? Did this
Hmm.
invoke you wanting to come back and serve, or was this like, golly, that was awful experience. I will never raise my hand for that again.
Yeah.
So I think, just as you're listening to this, just keep all that in mind.
Yeah. I feel like there's this pendulum that can swing where we see volunteers as a resource or we see them as a human, and then we can get
Yes.
really out of balance. And so I've gone through
Mhm.
seasons where we can be so we can forget that we have power in numbers. We forget we can accomplish, as some of you community ministers listening, you might have to be in a room with people that work higher up or on the executive team or whatever, and you have to make some commitments to be able to do things as a church. And I just really hope in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I really hope my volunteers show up for this because that's the only way we can accomplish this. So
Yeah.
volunteers are a powerhouse. They're a resource. So we have to remember that. We have to tend to that resource. But also, if we don't understand what's happening in their life, if we don't understand that their husband just went in for emergency surgery or their child is having issues medically or in school, or just if you don't understand and walk with people, or even have maybe coaches or other leaders that you're
Yeah.
connected with that are walking with people, there's no way for you to help them be successful in the role that they initially raised their hand for. And
Mhm.
I feel like some of the missteps that I have had over the years that I'm learning is that these ongoing volunteers that are with us throughout the whole year, did we ever give them a time? Like, did we explain the cycle? Like, hey, in a year we'll touch base. Or is this just like you're on the
Yeah.
merry-go-round forever until you have to have a hard conversation or you
I
ghost
know.
us? You know?
Yeah.
So like, oh, let's build in conversations about, hey, do you feel like this is a good fit? It's almost like like a check-in, and
Mm.
give them space and time to do and say the thing that you're maybe most afraid of, for them to say, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like, don't be
Mm.
so afraid of that you never have the conversation, because people feel more heard, seen when you connect with them about how they're doing. Do you still, like, I even
Love
ask people,
that.
like, do you still like it? Do you like this? Like, because if I have other team members come to me and say, Joe just stopped responding, he's not coming to meetings, he's not following through, like, what do we do?
Mm.
Essentially, do we fire this volunteer? And how do you fire a volunteer? We should
Mm.
all talk about that for a second in a minute.
Yes.
Right.
But
Yes.
like, I try to think, like, did we ask what's going on in Joe's life? is he the same person that signed up for this 2 years ago, or has his giftings changed, or his interest, or his
Mhm.
schedule? Like, let's learn about who our volunteers are as whole humans, and that will help all of us be more successful to do what we feel like God's calling us to do. And so I think keeping that pendulum and that balance in check is going to be important.
Yeah.
Good.
And that makes me think about like how do you manage your time in that space? I think you have to be really intentional to build those relationships like you're talking about, Erica. Uh, there shouldn't be, so maybe you set a personal goal for yourself as a community minister or leader. I am not going to let 2 weeks go by without having touched base with this group of volunteers, or just put it on your calendar. And that part
Mhm.
may seem a little, a little clunky, a little mechanical or whatever. Uh, and that's okay. That's just for the calendar. But when you
Mhm.
get on the phone, or you're on that text thread, or you
Mhm.
see them in person at church, at a different event, like really be intentional about connecting with them. There's been times where I've sent out like specific text messages to certain individuals or volunteers, and I'm looking at the previous text and I'm like, the
Mhm.
only time I'm talking to this person is when I need them to show up.
Yes.
That's not okay. Like, oh,
Mm, I
Yes.
know.
so sorry. That's the worst,
Yeah.
right? So what I've been learning to do is just giving people this opportunity to say no. Like, hey,
Hmm.
we have this
Mhm.
going on. I would love if you would, want to be a part of it and serve. It's okay if you say no. And then sometimes I'm actually
Hmm.
hoping that they say no, so that now that gives me an
Yeah.
opportunity to
Yeah.
just love on them just because I
Yeah.
love you. I don't want
Yeah.
anything from you. I'm not going to ask you to bring a mop, a rake, name
Hmm.
tags, none of that. I just want to know how you're doing. What are you going to do for Thanksgiving? What's your favorite
Mhm.
ice cream? What are the grandkids doing?
Hmm.
Whatever the case.
Mhm.
And it
Hmm.
just,
Love that.
sometimes we can miss this low hanging fruit of building real relational equity. Because
Mhm.
I think that people, by and large, they respond and serve and volunteer because they love you as a leader, and they love the church and what it's standing for. So it's all
Hmm.
based on relationship anyway. And I
Mhm.
think that that's kind of the cheat code as we manage and care for volunteers, is really, to your point again, Erica, really building those real relationships. Like,
Mhm.
this is far beyond, the 2 hours that we're going to serve with Salvation Army. This is about, hey, where are you going to send your kids to college? And let's
Mhm.
talk about that preteen that is causing you to pull
Yeah.
your hair out. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Those are the
Hmm.
things that I think get
Yeah.
a lot of traction.
I love that you said that, Jerome. I think
Hmm.
you're planning this event as a community minister, and as the event gets closer, you've got people who will just naturally like, I can't be there. I've got this or this or
Hmm.
this, and I love to utilize those things. So in the midst of doing that, one great tip for community ministers is to write down those people and to record, like, hey,
Hmm.
this person, like Erica couldn't be there because of this. Or
Hmm.
I had a volunteer one time. She said, I know I'm supposed to be there. I got, unfortunately, she got a DUI. Like,
Hmm.
she was watching fireworks or something, and she went to like a fast food restaurant, and she had been drinking wine, and she had a fender bender, and she
Hmm.
called me, and she like said all these things, and she's like, I can't, I lost my license. I can't be there. And it
Wow.
was the night before the event. It was this huge life event in her life. And so I thought, oh my gosh, that's terrible. But I had to click on to the next thing because our event was the next day. So I wrote her
Hmm.
name down. And then after all the
Hmm.
dust settled from the event, I called her. I'm like, how are you doing? Like,
Hmm.
how is this interrupted your life? Like, tell me, spend time with me. Can I bring you anything? How can I
Hmm.
support you? How can the church support you? So just having that mindfulness in the moment of like,
Hmm.
oh, you left me hanging. Like, you can't be at my thing. It's such a temptation to do that.
Hmm.
But that's a relational on ramp for people
Hmm.
to say, that's a checkpoint later. Like, got to write that down. And just like we call it the parking lot of just put
Yeah.
it in the parking lot and just deal with it later. But like, and then
Hmm.
after the event, go back to your parking lot and deal with all the things that you had to put there. And
Yeah.
just kind of invest in the people who didn't come to your event and say like, hey, what's life? What's life like?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so in that, In lieu of not keeping this super long, because you might be driving across country and thinking, man, I wish they would talk longer. So in lieu of
Yeah,
that,
right. Yeah, right. Well,
so
Said
give
no
me
one ever.
one thing. Said no one ever. I wish this podcast was longer. Said no one ever. So give me super quick examples of one thing that went well, and then one thing that maybe you think, oh, that probably is not a repeat.
I think it's maybe not something I did. It's more something I didn't do. I wasn't
Mhm.
doing. I wasn't keeping my eye on the stickiness of our team. So
Mm,
we have long-term volunteers that are representatives that are the liaisons between external organizations. And so they're working
mm,
behind the scenes individually to connect small groups and individuals and like connect with the partner and help us know what's going on, what's needed. And so people come onto the compassion team because they want to serve, and they a lot of times they want to serve with people. But I didn't realize for so long that like these people that are now in these long-term positions and like are committed, they're not like doing the work next to the people. They're just kind of going out, reporting back to us, going to meetings.
mm,
And so what we started doing was at least twice a year, but 4 times a year is great to have a meeting. They all come to my house, at least
mm,
in our local, at this campus or in Southern California campuses. And like, let's get them lunch. If we have time to like hang out, chat, play a game. But also I've always been a fan of debriefing, but when you bring the people boots on the ground into the conversation on what they would do differently, I feel like,
mm,
and then they're together, they're hearing each other. It's not just like, hey, email me some of your thoughts. It's like, oh yeah, actually, what if we did this? What if we did this? And so the
mm,
stickiness was like, let's get them all together in a relaxed, comfortable environment. Let's not have it just be in a church room. Like it felt different
Mhm.
being in a home. I
mm.
think us as leaders being a little vulnerable and like letting our walls down and inviting people in,
Yep.
it shifts the dynamic, and I think brings some longevity, but also I think just infuses a little bit more passion back, because you're reminded of why you did it when you're bouncing off of other people that are excited about it too.
Mm. It's really good.
Yeah, I think that's really awesome. I think that one of the things that I can think about is we do a volunteer appreciation dinner celebration at the end of the year, which is, not uncommon. And but those are times where we can really enhance that relational thing. And I love what you said, Erica, about getting out of a church room or church space or meeting at the church, but like take it to somebody's home and let
Mhm.
that be more intimate. One of the things that is a positive that I've learned in this space is just that vulnerability and like taking off the pastoral hat, taking off the leader hat and saying,
Hmm.
hey, I just have this role. This is my responsibility. But
Mhm.
my passion lies with doing life with you and what
Hmm.
that looks like. And, I'm just always like the free spirit and wanting to be making jokes and comical and just singing stupid songs that I make up in my head with whether we're like serving the homeless population or schools or whatever. And so I just love being around people. And so I there's been opportunities where people have just come to serve just because they just want to feel good, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so obviously they're doing a good thing by getting outside of their home and serving and having a heart posture towards others. But then I think as leaders, we have a responsibility to fan that flame, to make
Yeah.
that a lifestyle and not just
Mhm.
a check the box type of thing. And so as we
Hmm.
talk about volunteer management and care,
Yeah.
we really have to be thinking, I think you're not a leader if you're not going beyond where the group or the organization is presently.
Mhm.
You're just a monitor, right? If you're just focused on the
Yeah.
event, focused on the occurrence, focused on right now, just a monitor. You're not a leader.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so
Right.
I want to be a
That's good.
leader. I want to say, here's what's coming. How can I prepare you for what's coming so that not only can you thrive now, but you can thrive later and
Mm.
even beyond that? And so it's kind of like we've been saying, you have to know people, you have to understand
Mhm.
what really makes them tick in order
Mm.
to really lead
Yeah.
well. And so,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, it's just a beautiful thing that we get to
Mhm.
do.
I love that.
There's been times where if I don't properly vet a volunteer before coming on to a team, I'm actually not only doing a disservice to the volunteer that's on the team that's not a good fit, but like it's frustrating to the rest of the people there.
Mhm.
And so I think it's like doing the due diligence outside of they're a good person, they've got a heartbeat, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that is like so tempting when we're just like, wow, we got to like get somebody in the role, but I
Mhm.
think that care and management, it's that we have to manage, but put both together.
Yep, yep, yep. Okay, so I want to get a little salty. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
you do.
Um, so you mentioned it earlier, in terms of like not vetting, but like that's a great segue to how do you fire a volunteer? That's a really
Hmm.
that's a really tricky one. I'll go first.
Do it.
We had an organization that it was an inherited situation. So there was another kind of someone who had this role before, not really putting a lot of relational investment in it, not vetting, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of it fell in the category of, well, we've kind of always done it this way. And it's not really working, but we're not really noticing. So we're just chunking along. And so, yeah, we kind of noticed that right away when we took it over of like, this makes me itchy. So
I'm
all that to
allergic.
say, I'm allergic to this.
Yeah.
It's really weird and gross here. So it's kind of like, but they were in it, right? These volunteers, they
Hmm.
were in it and they never really were challenged or stretched or
Hmm.
anything of that nature. And it's like, what do you do with someone who is toxically dedicated to this
Hmm.
thing? And it's like,
Yes.
wow, we loved on them. We loved on this sweet, sweet lady. And we just kind of built healthy around her, in a way that made her itchy, and
Mm.
stretched her. And it was kind of like and we didn't do it maliciously but
Hmm.
we kind of padded her with health and growth and stretch. And
Mm.
there were two of them. One of them left, and the other one
Mm.
grew. And
Mm.
so it
Yeah.
wasn't we're going to sit down with you and we're going to tell you like, hey, you're really unhealthy and you're really leaned into this kind of toxically. Like, no, no, we
Hmm.
just brought in the health, we brought in the growth, we brought in the challenge. And, it's not for everybody. Like growth, stretching, it's not for everybody. If you want to stay stuck, you do you,
Hmm.
boo.
Hmm.
But we're going to go this way. You are totally invited in.
Hmm.
And one did and one didn't. So, that's what we did.
It's hard when there's two that are like the duo, like they play off each other.
Oh,
Oh,
hi.
sorry. Hey, Zoom. Yeah, but it's tough because you're breaking up like an organism that's grown
Yeah.
sideways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard when
Yeah,
they're ingrown like that.
I like that approach, Becky. I think that, I would say, just in kind of summation of what I believe I heard you say, if you do have to fire a volunteer, I
Hmm.
would challenge and encourage you as a community leader, community minister, to reassign them, right? Take it
Hmm.
upon yourself as a leader to say, okay, this is not a good fit for said reasons. Let me reassign this person and do that due diligence. Because at the end of the day, they're not employees. They're doing it out of the
Mm.
kindness of their
Yep.
heart. And if we really want to be like all the way grassroots, super technical about it, they're a reflection of our leadership, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so how do I really lean into, making this person the very best volunteer that they can possibly be? Now, obviously, they have a part to play in that. But
Hmm.
my encouragement would just be to kind of like what you guys did, like, hey, here's how this works. You
Hmm.
can either you can lean in or you can lean out. I hope that you lean in, and
Yeah.
maybe we can lean in and find something that's more applicable for you, more harmonious for you, or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah.
yeah, this has been great, y'all.
I know,
I
I
right?
love it, love it, love it. So,
I know.
hey,
Wait, I
if you
have an
have,
example.
oh, go ahead,
Oh,
Eric. I'm so sorry.
it's okay.
What's your
I just feel
example, boo?
Did you just get
well.
fired?
I think I did. I think I
You got
did.
chopped.
I know I'm all red now. Well, okay, just really quick, wanted to say that I feel like when you have to fire someone, it's either they have changed since you first got into like an agreement or the
Yeah.
organization has changed. And I think starting with care, I start these tough conversations with like, how are you? Because a lot of times when I've had to fire a volunteer, it's like they've disappeared, they've stopped following through, they've stopped doing what they've committed to do. And I think that checking in on them and asking if they still like what they're doing, like, does it still feel exciting? And a lot of times they will say no because it's pretty clear that it's not prioritized anymore. So it's less of the you're fired and more of a like, I'd love to make sure that like this is not competing with a lot of other things happening in your life. And like,
Mm,
what is life giving for you? Like, how can I help you find a spot? And some people want to be reassigned, and some people are like, I think I just need a break. And then we officially go, let's do it. No problem. Like, we'll probably need to find somebody to fill that role, but like, our doors are always open. And here's where I see you're gifted. So I wanted to have a chance to say that too, that
yeah.
reassignment isn't always necessary in their stage of life. It could be that they just need to almost be like given freedom to say, like, I could take a step back and not feel guilty or bad or shunned or like now we're
Hmm.
gonna like ghost you because you don't volunteer for us anymore. Like they need to
Hmm.
see that we have human developed like connection developed
Yeah.
that way surpasses their doing. It's their who they are that we love and
Hmm.
care for, not like how much they've sign up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
That's
good.
awesome. I thought you were going to say it, Erica. I thought you were going to say they're human beings, not human doings.
Wow,
Oh, that's such a good one.
okay. Jerome, that was
I
you.
can't take credit for that. That's a
Woo!
repeat. I've heard that somewhere,
That's
but
good. That
that's
was
it's
good.
good, right? So, hey, listener, thank you for tuning in to this
Hmm.
episode of Salty Talk, where we have talked about volunteer management and care. Please follow us on all the social media outlets. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, X. Please follow us on our website because you can keep track of all the things that are going on with the Community Ministers Network. So our website is communityministers.network. Please follow us, please subscribe, all the things, and we can't wait to see you on our next episode of Salty Talk.
Bye,
Bye, y'all.
y'all. See ya. Stay
Peace.
salty.